about that now. All right. Our study for tonight. Now, as everyone knows, this is our advanced Torah study that we've started to share on Facebook Live. And we've been down for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, I think, almost a month. But we're back today, and we're starting again. We're going to pick up somewhat how we left off with Rambam's Mishna Torah, and what I've been doing. By the way, we want to welcome everyone here. This is Rambam Shalom Ha'anusim. We are here in Houston, Texas, and we are again continuing our advanced studies in the Torah and the Mishnah. We're going to be doing some Kabbalah, and we're going to do some Brit Hadashah. We want to open it up and have discussion. And because we're live on Facebook, I'll be looking for and soliciting your questions so that that we can answer them in a discussion, a yeshiva-style discussion. We are striving here to unify all the people that are striving to reach our Father, Avinu Shabbat Shamayim. Even though I do a lot of studies in Hebrew, I speak English is the language, so I primarily going to stay with English. Every once in a while, I'll mix in a little bit of Hebrew, and I will show where some things were changed in the Hebrew during the translations. I tried to do that so you can have a better understanding of what the agenda was and has been with the modern day, I say, since the 17th century. During that time, the innovations took place, and also after 1300s, going back a little farther when they got a hold to the Ethiopian Bible in Ge'ez. So we'll be studying some of those scriptures from the Ge'ez, which are now coming out of the Sefer, which is, has the books from the Ethiopian Bible, right? And because I believe that it gives more background on things that we need. And we're going to hit it tonight, by the way, in Rambam's Mishna Torah. We were looking at customs and traditions of the nations and why we're not to follow them and what happens. Okay, so we're going to look at that. But I want to start off tonight by looking at, again, taking up the commandments that are left up on. I'm going to do a quick review, and then we're going to get right into the study. Remember, questions are welcome. Discussion, welcome, because this is the advanced class, okay? Which means that you've been studying Torah, you've been in the Bible for years, you've got a background in the Bible, both old and new, preferably. I hope you have a background in both old and new. This is a Hebrew congregation, okay? You can call us Jews if you want to. We don't get offended by that. We welcome that as well. But we prefer to be called Israelite, children of Israel, Hebrew Israelite. That's our preference, okay? We don't exclude anyone. We welcome everyone in to the discussion. You don't have to agree with what I teach. So, I like to go into the Torah and read it from the Torah. Now, I might give my own commentary, which is what is done throughout the years, but I'll always try to say this is from Rav Avshalom, meaning this is my take on it. Okay, everybody has their own opinion, but when it comes down to the Torah, we have to try to the best of our abilities to live by it. Now, there are those that believe that because they call it the Old Testament, that when Yeshua came, he did away with the law and his commandments. I'm not going to say anything about it. If that's where you are, then that's where you are, right? I'm not going to be dogmatic with you. I'm just going to say, if that's where you are, then that's where you are, all right? because life is too short to fight over things that it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. Some things are just true, you know. Some things are just Torah. Some things are just Bible, whether you believe it or not, whether you agree with it or not. So, you know, I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. I'm just going to lay it out as we read it and study it and let it take you where it will. So it says, jump off into the water and let it take you. Just let it take you. I pray that I'm able to spark an interest in you, that you will do your own research and studies. In this quest, Abraham went through Canaan looking for a city. We are going through the land, through the world, and we are searching for a city. We're doing the same thing Abraham did, especially for us in the diaspora that were caught up, our ancestors were caught up in the slave trades, you know, in the First World War, you know, when Europe came against the continent of Africa. And our ancestors got caught up in there and were shipped out all over the world and stripped of our heritage, our language, our tongue, our customs, torn down to nothing. We were beasts of burden. Weren't allowed to read or study, not allowed to communicate with each other. All this was cut off from it, and it was by design. It wasn't the first time it happened now. Don't think that was the first time it happened. It happened before. Right? It's a repeat. History has been repeating itself. You have to understand that history is repeating itself. Therefore, if you want to be prophetic, look at the past, look at history, and you can see the future based upon what is going on in your time and in your day. It's our responsibility to do that as functioning children of the Most High. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share screen. I'm going to go to Sephariah.com and I'm going to go into, I should already have it set up so when I pull it up, I can go right to it. If not, then I'll just have to find it as I usually have to do, you know. And because I'm such an intellectual giant, I never make mistakes. You all know that, right? So I get lost and then y'all have to get me back on track because I am such a great intellectual giant. All right. But I'm wise enough to surround myself with people that are knowledgeable. And that's what it takes in this day and time. I don't know everything, but I do know my name. And so here we are in Mishna Torah. If you're not familiar with Sephariah.org, that's where I'm studying from, lots of material there. And a lot of it has been translated, and they're continuing to translate the manuscripts so that in English and in the different languages so that we can study. The sole purpose of it is so that everyone can be exposed to the Torah. Okay. Interestingly enough, one of the Sidurim that I have, it's an Ashkenazi Sidur. Let's see if I have it on. Actually, I got it close. I know it's close. This Sidur I have right here. If y'all can see that, it's an Ashkenazi Sidur. And what I do is when I get a Sidur, the different Sidurim, I go and I read the introductions and things of that nature. And in that particular Sidur, it says that it was important that the Europeans or the Russians, people of European descent, had the privilege of a Torah. He said many of the people didn't have the advantage of a Torah background, you know. So they want to make sure that the people of Europe had the opportunity to study the Torah, to learn Torah. And so that's the way I feel about the Africans and those in the diaspora. I think that those of us that had not had the opportunity or the privilege to study the Torah and to be taught Torah, it's an opportunity. I want to present an opportunity for you to at least look at it, you know, hear something, get something from it. And so, and that's, you know, part of what I'm doing. So here on this Tuesday night, Okay, so let's go ahead now. If you're seeing my screen now, you're seeing that it says Mishna, the positive mitzvot or the positive commands. And if this is your first time tuning in, I want you to know that there are 613 commands, and 365 of them are negative, and the 248 are positive. Now, we are not bound by all 613 commands because we're not in the land of Israel. So many of the commandments, the mitzvot, do not pertain to us while we're in the diaspora. So this is me, Rob Absalom. As I said, I do the 10 commandments, the 10 words. If you can abide by the 10 words, and it can build on that, I think that you'll have a good start. Okay. But just know that there are 613 commands. 248 are positive, 365 are negative. And by the way, in Christianity, they have more than we do. But they're not, as I say, codified in the New Testament as ours are coded throughout the Torah. So as I'm reading these very quickly, this review of the mitzvot or the commandments, or some say religious duties, but I say these are universal duties that we have as mankind to live amongst each other in peace. They're designed for us to live in peace in accordance to the creator of the heavens, the earth, the seas, and everything that is therein. The creator who gave us authority as little gods on the earth to rule over the fish of the sea, the fowls of the air, and everything that creeps upon the face of the earth, not other men. We're not created to rule over other men. We're here to live together in harmony. These laws are universal laws. And again, when I say universal, that means all throughout the cosmos, because the Torah was created before the earth. The earth was taken out of the Torah, put into it, and we are here because of the Torah. And so, again, as I said, I will not go so much into the Hebrew, but I will stay with the English because we are in an English-speaking society. And sometimes I will interject some Hebrew. I will read some of the Hebrew, but not very much. Okay? So it says, and as we do, the first commandment, the very first commandment is to know that there is a God. Okay. I read somewhere it says the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. Okay. But if you're going to be a Torah keeper, first know that there's a God. You can find that in Exodus. Okay. And then next, you have to unify him. In other words, know that there's one God who created all things. We're going to get into that a lot more later on. There is one God. We call him Father. He has many, many names that we attribute to him based upon what he is doing for us or what he has commanded us to do. He says, you call me Eye, sure, Eye, I am what I will be, or I am what I am, or I am that I am. But it's Eye, sure, Eye. Okay. And then he's one God. Next, to love him. You say you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. That's a part of the Shema. That's why we say that, to remind us, okay, to love him, okay, and then to fear him, look at him in awe as we would any parent, or as you go before a judge or the law, you're supposed to be, give reverence to the law, you're supposed to adhere to the law before him, above all the laws of men, above all the judges of earth. He is first. He is one that we bow to, and only him do we bow. We don't bow to angels. We don't bow to people. We bow to our Father in heaven, not in reverence to other men. We do reverence to our Father, okay? We fear him in awesomeness, not in terror and trembling, but in the awesomeness of his power, because we are his children. Okay, and a parent should not want their children to be terrified of them, but to honor them and reverence them above all other. If we had that, there wouldn't be gang members. Okay, it says to pray Pray is our spiritual sacrifice, to pray. We're commanded to pray. We're to cling to him, okay? Okay, and you shall cling to him, as in Deuteronomy 10 and 20. He said you shall swear by his name. That is, when you say something, let your word be truth. Your word is your bond. In the military, your word is your bond, okay? They teach us in the military that your word, when you say something, then you intend to do it, okay? Do not make false oaths. That's what that means. It says, and then to emulate his good ways. Now we know that there's only one good, and that's the Father, but we're to the best of our ability, act like him, do what he would do. Yehoshua says, whatever I see my Father do, that's what I do, okay? So we're to follow that example, do what he did. Now, there's some things that our Father does that, we got to be careful, right? All right. So it says, sanctify his name, set it aside. It's a holy name. Honor his name. Don't use his name, in some of the things I hear people say, blasphemy his name. That way you blaspheme his name, you're saying it, use it. We're not even supposed to say it in the toilet. According to custom, we're not even supposed to speak his name in the toilet, in places that are desecrated. We're not even supposed to use his name. So we set his name aside, his holy name. All right. All right. But again, we have these, and we have the Yuhe Vauhe, where we were taught we were supposed to say Lord instead, but he says, yeah, sure, yeah, this shall be my name forever. Right. So there's some controversy over that. Right. But anyway, the thing is to set aside his name, sanctify it, make it holy. Okay. To recite the Shema twice a day. So it says, speak to them when you lie down and when you rise up. That's what we get to twice a day, morning and evening, or evening and morning. We recite the Shema, which reminds us that he is one. Goes all the way back to the first one. He is one, right? And to unify his name. Okay. That's what the Shema does. That's what it reminds us of every day. Okay. Twice a day, and all through the day. Okay. So we're to study the Torah and to teach it to others. This comes out of the Shema as well. Okay. Again, as I said in the Siddur, it said that people didn't have they didn't have the opportunity to be brought up in a Torah household or background. So we want to make sure that at least you're giving people an opportunity. So whenever you were in the company of 2 or 3 people, we're supposed to talk Torah. All right. Okay. Now to tie the tefillin upon the heads, instead there should be an emblem between your eyes. All right. That's the tefillin, the things you see on the head at the wall. And in the morning we don the tefillin. Okay. Inside those tefillin, okay, there's the Shema's in there. Okay. And then tie the tefillin on the arm. All right. Now I want to say this about that just quickly. The Torah itself just says it shall be upon your head and then tie it on your arm. You could be a string, right, with the Torah inside a scroll, a small, it could be a band like that, And for the head, it could be like, you see the little band around. You see a lot of the Israelites, Hebrew Israelites will have the band, but inside it, all you have to do is have the Torah, a parchment with Torah in it, with Shema in it, and you meet the requirement, okay? It doesn't have to be done the way certain groups do it. You can change it a little bit. Right? Now this is Rambam Shalom, okay? Because Rambam says that in each generation we have the obligation to make innovations according to the time that we live in, not changing the Torah, but understanding where we are in time. All right. So the tefillin is worn on the head in the daytime, not at night. To make the zizit, okay? Again, this is another controversial thing between, when you have the tassels on the 4 corners or the zizit or the fringes that go all the way around. Your choice, right? Your choice, all right? But we're supposed to have them. And they're supposed to be a part of the garment, okay? So a lot of people, and I've done it myself, and I still do it. I'll take it and I'll tie them through, my boot belt loops, and it really is not proper, But the purpose of it is that when somebody else sees it, it reminds them of the Torah, right? Somebody else, not necessarily me, but to remind them of the Torah, all right? Because I'm here for other people and not for myself. But when I see it on other people, it still reminds me because they're wearing it. I see it on them. It reminds me. Okay. So that's Rob Absalom's take on that. All right. To collect the people to hear the Torah being read in the year after the Shemitah year, the starting of another cycle of 7 years. You know, we read the Shemitah, we read the Torah scroll. But you know, every week, Monday and Thursday, we read the Torah. Besides on the Shabbat, we have a Torah reading in the minions, in the morning prayer and in the evening prayer. If you're not doing that, then that's something you should consider. All right. It's for each man to write a Torah scroll. Today, it's a merit to write a Torah scroll, and there is a prescribed method for writing the Torah scroll. It's not what you may think it is, but we are to write one. However, if you have a Tanakh, and the Torah is in there, all right? So you have a Torah scroll. Modern days, you can go to print and have them printed out, all right? That's Rob Opson again. It's a merit to write your own, because when you do that, you ascribe it to memory much better, right? For the king to write two, so he's got one for himself and he's got one that he, for, I'd say for corporate, I'll put it like that. Personal and corporate, let's put it like that in modern day terms. But the king should have two. The leaders, president of the United States, president of different countries, the kings of countries, they're supposed to have two of them. They're supposed to live by the Torah, right? Okay, but we know how that works out. Okay, and then we're to bless the Lord after eating. This is by the way, this is number 19. So I didn't count the numbers off, but we're going down. I'm at 19, and that's to bless the Lord after eating. Now we're taught that we pray before and then we eat and then we go on about our business. But the Torah says, after you have eaten and you're full, then you should bless the Lord. And we bless the Lord, not the food. We're blessing him because he provides the food, you see. So there's some things that we have to really go back and relearn, because the world has taught us a different way. That's the customs of the nations, which we're going to study in just a few minutes, a couple of minutes, by the way. Okay, to build a chosen house, the temple. So we know that the temple is built in Jerusalem, but it was been destroyed. We're out here in the diaspora. It's okay to have a house, a Beit Midrash, a house of study. We call them synagogues and temples, but to have a Beit Midrash, a house of study, is a merit. It's a great merit to have a Beit Midrash, a house of study, a place where you can, because we're in the diaspora. And we will have another temple eventually in Jerusalem, and we will go there. Okay, to reveal the house, the temple or the Beit Midrash, place of worship, is to be held in high esteem. Okay, taken care of, and careful how we talk and how we dress when we go there. We get in all that stuff later on. Let's just go on. Okay, there's number 2 I'm coming up to now. It says to keep watch over this house continually. In other words, we have to take care of that. Again, take care of the house. Okay. All right, take care of it. Make sure you should be meticulous about taking care of the house of worship, house of prayer. All right, that's a commandment. All right. And so it says for the Levites to serve in the sanctuary. Okay, the Levites have a duty because they got themselves in trouble. But that's for the Levites. Now, again, I've said before, many of us don't know. Some people know that they're Levites, okay? And I know some people that actually are Cohen. I know at least one Cohen. But I have to go by his word. And he says he has the documentation to show it. So, who am I? I have no heaven, no hell. So I say, if that's what it is, that's what it is. Okay, but I'm going to watch your lifestyle, by the way. Okay, for the priest to sanctify his hands and feet at the time of service. This is why we wash our hands, and we say the Natalit Yadadim increase when we have Kiddush, or when we go in for service. You wash your hands, you wash your feet. I haven't seen anybody washing their feet going in every day, but at the temple, that's what happens. The priest was to do that. And that's, again, we do have feet washings and different things like that in different congregations. But hand washing is done quite, every time we go to the temple, we're supposed to do that. All right. The house of worship, maybe wherever you're doing your prayers, it's a reminder that we are indeed priests. Okay, prepare the candles for the sanctuary. Again, some of these commandments are not enforced today because the temple is not up. And this one I just read is one of them. The next one is for the priest to bless this is erroneous right here. I don't like it when they do that. It says for the priest to bless the Jews. That is incorrect. Incorrect translation. This is number 26. For the priest to bless that is incorrect. And it's okay because it says Levreka Akohanim Yisrael. It says Yisrael, not Jews. It says Israel, Shedamar. Okay. So, and then at the end it says Israel, yeah, but they put it right here. It's correct, Israel, same as it says in Hebrew. But why would they change it here and put Jews instead of Israel? I smell a rat. Oh, I'll make somebody mad. That's okay. I smell a rat though. Anyway, it's the narrative. It's all about the narrative. All right. It's about the narrative. If you're going to translate it properly. It says that's like a false oath to me. You're changing it. You're not supposed to add to or take away from the word, but you've taken away because this is scripture and you've taken away from the word and you changed the word. This is a scripture. Numbers 6 and 23. You have done something wrong when you do that. That's why I'm so against it, because we're not supposed to add to and not take away from the word. And that's right in the middle of it. Okay. So let's be careful about that. Be careful about that. Okay. I know you're trying to get a narrative across. I know you're trying to control the narrative, but it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the Father. Okay. It says to arrange bread and frankincense before God in the temple. Again, we don't have a temple. So that's another one. We do it at home. We have, we do the challah, or I go by the challah. By the way, I used to make it a lot, but here lately I've been buying it. But it's all good, I go and get the challah. And I'll have it in the morning. Me and my, we'll have it after prayer in the morning. I'll have it after, kiddush. It says we're to have a meal offering. With the sacrifice, we have the meal offering. And because prayer is our spiritual sacrifice, then the meal offering is the wine and the bread that I have. And that's what and it tells us that if you have a siddur from the Hebrew Israelite West African Jews, it tells you about that. All right. To burn spice offerings twice a day. Again, we don't have a temple, so we don't have to worry about to keep the fire burning at the altar. We don't have a temple. Again, that's another. Remove the ashes. We don't have a temple. All right. Send here's one. Here's one. To send the impure people out from the camp of the divine presence, the sanctuary, and you shall send from the camp all the leprous. And we're not in Israel. We don't have a temple. But with a person, if you're sick, let's put it like this. Let's bring it forward to the day, and then I'm gonna move on to. I got to move on into the other. But if you're sick, you stay at home. We'll pray for you, for your healing. Don't you bring no sickness to the Beit Midrash or to the synagogue or to the church, if that's what you call it. Don't bring your sickness to there and spread it amongst the people. Don't do it. We've been taught, if you're not clean, stay at home. Isolate yourself. These laws are for our good. So isolate yourself. I had to, let's just move on, because I'm gonna stop at 31. I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna switch gears now. That's enough, because I've gone. I did start a little late, but I don't know why I did that. Oh, I know it's faster. Okay. So I'm in Mishna Torah, and I'm going down now. As you can see, I'm still serving sharing my screen. I left positive mitzvot. I'm going on down to Sefer Mada, and I'm going into foreign worshiping customs of nations. And I'm going to start at chapter 1. And I'm not going to read the Hebrew, but I'm going to go into this. And then we're going to also look at, along with this, we're going to look at the Ethiopian, one of the books out of the Ethiopian Bible called the Book of Yasher. Okay. Ethiopians maintain this in their Bibles. And so we have it in the Sefer. So I'm going to be referring over to that as we're going through this Mishna Torah, Rambam's Mishna Torah. Okay. So here we go. So this is chapter 1, Simon 1. This is Simon 1 in this this lesson for tonight. And again, open for discussion. Okay. Even if there's a commandment that one of the mitzvot that I read, if you want to, hit me up on that too. But we're here. All right. Now it says, during the time of Enosh. Now, does anyone remember where Enosh comes into play? He's before Enoch, right? And he's down there during the time when Seth has children, and during that time period, it says at that time men became to call upon the name of the Lord. Okay, so that's where you're looking at Enosh before Enosh, before Hanok or Enoch. Sometimes we can get them mixed up. That's why I'm focusing on that, because you can get them mixed up. You think Enosh is Enoch. It's not. Different people, different time, different dispensation. All right. So it says during the time of Enoch, mankind made a great mistake, and the wise men of the generation gave thoughtless counsel. Enosh himself was one of those who erred. What was their error? Their mistake was they said that God created the stars and the spheres with which to control the world. He placed them on high and treated them with honor, making them servants who minister before him. Okay, not a problem. He says, according to it is fitting to praise. Now, here it goes. Accordingly, it is fitting to praise and glorify them, to treat them with honor. So today, I read that because today there are people that actually throughout time have worshiped the stars, worship the sun. They're sun worshipers, they're moon worshipers, and they go out and dance before the moon. And by the way, Rosh Chodesh, which we just had yesterday, Sunday, or Yom Rishon, Sunday, which is Yom Rishon, the first day of the week, was Rosh Chodesh 1. Then there's Rosh Chodesh 2. But it's the new moon. And so what we as a custom, we go out and we point to the moon and we bless the Father who put the moon in the sky for signs of sun and the moon and stars for signs of season. Now, the moon is a sign of a new month, right? So you get that first little sliver of the moon showing us that it's a new month. But see, what happens is, if you're not careful, see, some people will be worshiping the moon. And so we're admonished not to worship the moon, but we're acknowledging, we're not worshiping the moon. We're acknowledging that it's bringing in a new month, okay? And it's important, we have this solar lunar calendar because it helps us to keep up with the times and the seasons. Because, Pesach is coming up, see? And so we're going to be looking for that new moon during that month, right? Because that's going to start the first day, and then we got to count 15 days from there, right? On the 14th day, so we start, getting our stuff out of it, all our unleavened bread out. So this is important of that new moon. We acknowledge to the moon. So I have to go out and we go out and we look for that moon. And if it's a cloudy day, we have it on the calendars. All right. But it's important to understand that we're not worshiping the moon, nor the sun, nor the stars. Now, in our advanced class, we teach that there are angels that govern the moon, the stars. Each of them have separate, these are workers, right? This is what they do. And nations have worshiped angels and worshiped the elements. Okay, and we have to be careful about that. In my studies of spiritual teachings, I always make sure that we base whatever we're doing on the Torah, what it says in the very basics of the Torah, and that is we only worship and give reverence and bowing to the Father and no one else. Nothing else in creation, only the Father. Okay, only the Father. And everything we do goes back to the Father. He is the only one. We go back to our Father. And so we really emphasize that in our studies, because when you're in the spiritual realm and you're studying spiritual things, there are things that take place and you don't have to be obeying the Father. And spiritual things will happen for you. And you can actually see spiritual things, and you can, again, operate in the spiritual realm if you know how to do it. Okay. So this is important. And so there are people out there that are worshiping the stars, the moon, and people that worship angels. And they even tell you to pray to the angel. Today, I know, I've read the books. I've read the things. I look at it, but that's not right. That's not according to the Torah. If you, that's why we focus so much on knowing the Torah, because people do that. And the angels tell you, don't bow to me, don't worship to me, don't worship me. Only the angels will tell you, don't worship me. You see, and there's evidence of it in the scripture. You know, you don't worship it, you worship the Father, the Creator. You worship the Father. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so again, we've just had a Rosh Chodesh, and we usually do a Hallel, a short Hallel, which is Psalms 113, parts of Psalm 113 to 118, I think it is. And we say, you know, we don't do a full Hallel, but we do, these are sanctifications of the Most High, not of the moon, but of the Most High, our Father. Okay. All right. So they said that they would praise and glorify them with words and prostrate themselves before them, because by doing so, they would, according to their false conception, be fulfilling the will of God. So again, this is the same things happening today. All right. So again, this is out of Rambam's Mishna Torah. This is explaining an explanation of the Torah and what was going on in that day. Right. All right. So it says again, this was worshiping of false gods. So this is what the Rambam is telling us. They were worshiping false gods. All right. And again, so it says, they would not say there's no other God except God for this star. You know, polytheism is what they call it. Multiple gods. They worship multiple, and there are people that do worship multiple gods. Now there is a difference in worshiping gods and saying that there are powers, the other powers, because there are other powers. But we only worship one power, one creator, our Father. He is the power, okay, and he is the only power that we worship, okay, or he is the creator, the Ein Sof. He is the one. He is the one. There can only be one. There can be only one. And he is the one. Okay. So this message was conveyed by Jeremiah, who declared, "Who will not fear you, King of the nations? For to you it is fitting among all the wise men of the nations, in all their kingdoms, there is none like you." This is how we're supposed to think about it. You see, they have one foolish, sensitive notion. They conceive of their empty teachings as wood. And we're told that when we go into the nations, we will be subject to worshiping gods of wood and stone. And it's happened and is happening. Just because you don't see it all the time, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It is happening. I know that because in the scripture. I know that because I read the books, modern day books. I'm doing I get these books that I read, and I'm supposed to give them a critique on them. And I look at it, I say, this is not, this is not kosher. This stuff that you write is not kosher. It says all know that you alone are God. Their foolish error consists in conceiving of this emptiness. as your will. Okay. Now, at this point, okay, because it's talking about, people worshiping stars, moon, polytheism, all right? And this was happening in Mitzrayim, but before it happened in Mitzrayim, they worship the one true God. The others got off into sun worship, and they give them different name. We won't get into that right tonight, but we do hit on those, and if we haven't, we will be hitting it in our studies, okay? And so that means you'll get a little bit of that. It says, after many years passed, there arose people, false prophets. Here we go. False prophets who told their nation that God had commanded them to say, okay, serve this star, all right? False prophets. Remember, idol worshiping the elements, worshiping the stars and the moon, and false prophets. We have them today, all right? So now, let me do this. Let me go down here a little further and see that. Let me go down a little further. All right, so talk about the false prophets and things of that nature. So I'm going to start here. It says, thus these practices spread through the world. People would serve images with strange practices. Again, still happening today. One more distorted than the other. They offer sacrifice to them and bow down to them. As the years passed, God's glorious and awesome name was forgotten by the entire population. Sounds like us, because when we were robbed, we lost the name. We lost it. So it's like history repeating itself, right? What we're experiencing today, and you talk to some people, you find that some people are really out there. There's some people real out there, and they're Black folk too. We like thinking that we ain't that, but we got some messed up folk, really messed up. There are people that won't go to Haiti. I talk to Jamaica, they say, I ain't going there. I'm not going over there. Something going on that shouldn't be going on. So there's things going on, and I don't know. I really don't know. Talk about Benin and Togo. Benin being the center of voodoo. All these things, and they're still going on today, by the way. All right, and they have power, whether you know it or not. There's power because if you know how to operate in the spiritual realm, you can get results. All right, and you can be tricked if you don't know the Torah and what the Torah says. It says it was no longer part of their speech or thought, and they no longer knew him. So today, it's again, I have a challenge because when you see Yud He Vav He, you're supposed to say Lord or Adonai, and not the name. So people, and they say, well, nobody knows how to pronounce the name, but it's Yud He Vav He. If you study Hebrew, and it tells you how each oath has a pronunciation, what's the deal? Of course, we're going to have different dialects, but what's the deal, right? So people don't know the name. Or it's even worse when you can see the name and afraid to say the name. This is Rob Optional speaking, by the way. All right. All right. Now, if you're in a unclean state, okay, I can understand that. In an unclean place, okay. But if you're reading the Torah, if you're reading the Psalms, if you're reading the Proverbs, if you're reading prophets, what is the problem? He's your father. And you're reading the name, one of the appellations toward him, the characteristics. So, again, this is Rob Opsilon, and that's a discussion. But anyway, so people don't know the name. But that's not true. People do know the name. You hear them say the name every day, all the time. But there are the people that are afraid to say the name. That's the deal today, is they're afraid to say the name because they've been told you not to say the name. People have been scolded for saying the name, by the way. Saying, well, you're mispronouncing the name. It doesn't have any vowels. Well, it does have vowels. By the way, they say there are no vowels. There are vowels. The Yud is a vowel and the U is a vowel. They are natural vowels. There are two vowels, U and Yud, in the name. You see. So we got that clear. Let's go on. So it says, thus all the common people, the women and the children would know only the image of wood or stone and the temples of stone to which they trained from their childhood to bow down and serve, and whose name they swore. Oh my goodness. I ain't gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole, because this is, we brought up that way, and we got this thing that we do. So, I'm gonna leave that alone right now. I'm not here to get the water going. Anyway, let's go on down. It says, so the wise men among them would think that there is no God. So the wise men would think there's no God other than the stars and the spheres for whose sake, and in resemblance of which they had made them these images. Okay, so they're making these false images. It said the eternal rock was not recognized or known by anyone in the world. The eternal rock, all right, was not known, not recognized or known by anyone in the world, with the exception of a few. Say I'm one of the few. Just say I'm one of the few. Okay, he says that there are few individuals. For example, Hanoch, here we go. These are the names. These are the names of the anointed people that knew and lived by the name, understood that there was one creator, and they stood on that, and they taught that, they preached it, they lived it. It says there's Hanoch or Enoch, Methuselah. Look at the line, look at the lineage of this. We talk about this all the time. Noah, Shem, Ever. Okay, you start getting into the Hebrews, right? And it said the world continued in this fashion until the pillar of the world, the patriarch Abraham, was born. So all through the years, there were specific men who stood for the truth of the creation and the creator. Hanoch, Methuselah, Noah, Shem, and Ever. Okay, that's where you start getting into, again, the Hebrews. Ever, the Hebrews. All right, that's us. All right, so it says, and after this mighty man was weaned, he began to explore and think. Though he was a child, he began to think incessantly through the day and night, wondering how it is possible for the sphere to continue to revolve without having anyone have any questions on it? I'm gonna read that again. Okay, talking about Abraham. After this mighty man, talking about Abraham, was weaned, he began to explore and think. Though he was a child, he began to think incessantly throughout the day and night, wondering how is it possible for the spirit to continue to revolve without having anyone controlling it? Who is causing it to revolve? Surely it does not cause it itself to revolve. Okay, this is where I'm going to go to the Ethiopian Bible. All right, I'm going to go to Ethiopian Bible right now, and I'm going to bring something out of it. Now, remember, I just said when he was a child. Okay, so in the Ethiopian Bible, in the Sefer, it's in the Sefer now, but it comes from the Ethiopian Bible. In the Sefer, and this is on the section where it says the wise men of Nimrod, okay, and during the generations of Noah, right, the flood, and after the flood and all that stuff, then Abraham. Now we're talking about Abraham, and so it says, now check this out. It says, and it was in the night that Abraham was born, that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah. Okay, and they rejoiced with him on that night. When all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the star. They were stargazers, by the way. And they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens, and it swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight. So not just one person saw it, but many of them saw it. Okay, They saw it and they were astonished. And the sages understood this matter and they knew its importance. And they said to each other, this only betokens the child that was born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth. He and his children forever, and he will, and his seed will slay great kings and inherit the land. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night. And in the morning, all these wise men went, and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. So they knew. Now, this is what I'm talking about, false prophets. See, they're seeing the signs. They understand how to operate in the spiritual realm. And they knew who Abraham was and what he was to become. So just because the person says he's a prophet, he could be a prophet, but that doesn't mean he's following the ways of Yah. And this is why we always say, are you following the Torah? Okay? Are you following the Torah? If you're not, I'm not going to follow you. I don't care how true your prophecy is. I'm not following you because there is a trap being laid. There is a trap being laid because there are seers, there are conjurers. Again, I said you go to Benin and you go to Togo, and in Benin there's a place where strong juju. Go to Haiti, there's strong juju. All right, strong juju. That's what I've heard about Haiti, and I read about all those places, about Benin. And by the way, I believe that Benin is where they put the curse on us. Walk around the tree 7 times. And they put the curse that we would never prosper and we'll forget our name, forget our land, we'll forget all about who we are. Those were 7 curses they put on us. 7 times walk around. Our ancestors go around that tree and curse. They still got the memorial there for you to go and see it. You know, spiritual realm is a powerful thing you have to understand. All right. So let me go on a little further. Okay. So you know the setup is they're going to kill him. All right. So it says, and they went, and verse 8 said, and they did so, and they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground. And they said, may the king live, may the king live. We heard that a son was born to Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of thy host. And we yesterday came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when thy servants went from the house of Terah to go to our prospective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to heaven and saw a great star coming from the east, and the same star ran with great speed and swallowed up the great 4 stars. So he's talking about what they saw. Now this is a vision that they're seeing. Remember, the prophets of Elijah saw visions. The prophets of Yah saw visions and see visions. Daniel talks about his vision. Jeremiah and Zechariah, they all talk about the visions. And then in Mitzrayim, the magicians, the Magi, performed their wonders and their miracles in the sight of Moshe Rabbeinu of blessed memory. So just because a person is doing this, understand they don't have to be following the ways of Torah. This is why we stick to the Torah. Okay. Because we know there's a choice to be made. Follow the ways of Torah of Yah, or you're operating from the other side. Because spiritual things operate according to principles and laws that are established in the universe. Okay? So you have to understand that. All right. And so, and down to verse 14, it says, and the king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight. And he sent and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. And the king said to Terah, I have been told that a son yesterday born to thee, and after this manner was observed in the heavens. And he says, and now therefore give me the child. Watch this knucklehead. Now therefore give me the child that we may slay him. Now he will give him his son so he can kill him. Now what do you think? What kind of thought process is going through his mind? I'm gonna kill your son. You know, he got Nimrod, and Nimrod messed up in the head. I'm gonna kill your son. Bring him to me so I can kill him. Now you know a man ain't gonna go for that. Okay. So he goes and he prays. It goes to his family. And he prays with, and he has 3 days. The king gives him, in other words, the king gives him 3 days. So he goes back to his family. And then after the 3rd day, okay, that's what it's all this conversation is about down here. All right. And it says, this talk about how, he said, gold is not going to, you're going to pay for my son. That's not going to, no, it's my son. Okay. He says, okay. So it says, and the king said to her, no, but I will purchase thy younger son for a price. They still wanted to buy it. They did that to somebody we know, 30 pieces of silver. They wanted, they did that to somebody else, right? So, the anointed one. They want to kill the anointed one. They want all through the age, they want to kill the anointed one. We see that in Mitzrayim. Okay. It says, so there's a negotiation going for the life of this child, and Terah's not gonna give up his son, that, right? And so he says, and the king hearkened to Terah, and he did so, and gave him 3 days' time. Terah went from the king's presence, and he came home to his family and spoke to him all the words of the king. And he says, and the people were greatly afraid. Yeah, afraid because this is Abraham, this is our child. What parent wants to, uh, so he didn't do it, right? This is Nimrod, by the way. It says Nimrod. I'm giving that. This is Nimrod that wants to kill this baby. Okay. So down to verse 35. He didn't kill Abraham's son. He killed one of his servant's son. All right. Instead. And this story, by the way, Abraham didn't die, but there was a substitute in Abraham's place that died in his stead. This same story carries on with Yahushua. That Yahushua didn't die, but someone else died in his place. That's one of those legends that goes forward, those tales that go forward. And this, I think that's where they got that tale from. Okay, because Abraham didn't die, but it was somebody else that Terah went, one of his servants. He went and got him, and I'll go back and read that for you. Verse 33, and Terah hastened as the thing was urgent from the king, and he took a child from one of his servants, which his handmaid had born to him that day. And Terah brought the child to the king and received value from him. And the Lord was with Terah in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Abraham's death. And the king took the child from Terah and with all his might dashed his head to the ground. They did that to many of the children in this country. The principle was to keep the anointed ones from growing. They killed our children. Right? And they've been doing this. It's nothing new. All right. So we see, again, I just showed you what I was talking about, that it wasn't Abraham that was killed, but it was the servant's child. Right. And the Lord was with Abraham now, remember, it says from a young age, Abraham considered the stars and the moon. Okay. Now watch this. It says, and Terah, verse 35, and Terah took Abraham his son secretly together with his mother and nurse, and he concealed them in a cave and brought them to their provisions monthly. And the Lord was with Abraham in the cave, and he grew up, and Abraham was in the cave 10 years. Abraham's 10 years old, living in a cage. And it says nothing about him talking and conversing with the sun about the sun and the moon, who rose this. And it says, okay, so it goes on, it says, and Haran, the son of Terah, Abram's oldest brother, took a wife in those days. Haran was 39 years old when he took her, and the wife of Haran conceived and bare a son and called his name Lot. And then it says, and she conceived again and bare a daughter, and she called her name Milcah. And she again conceived and bare a daughter, and she called her name Sarai. And Haran was 42 years old when he begot Sarai, which was in the 10th year of the life of Abraham, 10 years old. And in those days, Abraham and his mother and nurse went out from the cave, as the king and his sons had forgotten the affair of Abraham, kind of like Yahushua coming out of Egypt. They forgot, the king was dead, and Uzziah said, but in this case, they had forgotten about him. So verse 5 says, and when Abraham came out from the cave, he went to Noah and Shem and his son Shem. Look at this now. 10 years old, come out of the cave. He goes where? And Abraham came out from the cave. He went to Noah and his son Shem. Remember, Noah is in that line of great anointed ones that taught the oneness of God, the creator. Abraham came out of the cave. He went to Noah and his son. He's getting it straight off the hot. Straight off the hot, man. He's getting it right. He's getting the word. He's getting the way. He's getting 10 years old. And he remained with them to learn the instruction of the Lord and his ways. And no man knew where Abraham was. And Abraham served Noah and Shem, his son, for a long time. There was an error in what I read to you in Rambam's Mishna Torah. That's why I read this. I'm correcting that error that was made there. Because they're saying he was content as a child, but here it tells you at 10 years old, he was taught by Noah and Shem. He lived with them for a long time, learning the way. So we've corrected an error. And that is truly an error. Maybe when they were doing the translation, or maybe they, but we do know this, that this book, Yasher, is not in the volume of King James. If we had this in King James, we would have made a correct, the Rambam would have been able to make a correction there. Because remember, Rambam is in the 12th century. All right. Ethiopian and get the corrections, fill in the gaps. This hopefully fills in and can answer some of you, make the correction. I put it that way. And so it says that Abraham was in Noah's house 39 years. So we know 39 years, and Abraham knew the Lord from 3 years old, and he went in the ways of the Lord until the day of his death, as Noah and his son Shem had taught him. So he was being taught, right, all that they had. And when they got that, they took him, right, to Noah to teach him all these things that he knows. So we got the background on that. Why they said when he was young, and they, the time they talk about the young, he was, this just gives you more background. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here. Are there any questions? I wanted to get that. The point across is that prophets, when you're in the spiritual realm, dealing in the spiritual realm, people can see things in the spiritual realm, and they don't have to be following the ways of Yah. And they can see things, and they can tell you things, and they be true. All right. So we have to weigh the Torah in that, and we follow what the Torah says. Because again, I've been reading the books, and I'm seeing what people, and they're seeing things in the spiritual realm, and they actually are, but they're not following the way of the Torah, and they don't even believe Torah. So be careful who you follow. If they're not taking you back to the Torah, then I would run away. I'd run away. Okay. That's all, that's all I can do to advise on that. I can't be dogmatic about it, because there are many other things that we would like to teach that we really can't teach. I'm gonna stop the share right now. That we really can't teach because of the controversy based upon what we've been taught for these 2,000 years as a people. And we want to encourage everyone to study. First of all, Study the foundation of Torah. Get the foundations. You know, if you get you a Sefer, get yourself a Sefer. Don't just get a King James Bible. Get yourself a Sefer that has the Ethiopian books. You can get a Catholic Bible. It's got them all in there, by the way. Catholic, and I'll repeat this over and over again. Catholic Bible's got them. Because I want you to know, you know, and read the books. And they'll give you a firm foundation, you know, of why we do the things we do. And study this thing, meditate on it, you know. Meditate on the word. Get you some proverbs and some songs and meditate those songs. You know, meditate on them, let them get into your soul, into your spirit of your mind. And he'll give you what you ask for. The Father will give you what you ask for. He'll guide you to what the information you need and the people you need to meet with. He'll guide you there. Get you, you know, firm up your foundation, firm it up. And you know, we're here, and I'm not the only one here. You know, I'm not the only teacher. There are many teachers out there that are teaching Torah. I mean, giving firm foundation in Torah, you know, that you can live a life of peace and you know that we are children of the Most High, and you know, we have an opportunity. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and I'm going to stop I'm going to say to those that are on Facebook Live, thank you for tuning in, and I pray that you have received a good word, something that will spark your interest, cause you to go and to study more, to want to know more. You know, the Father said that he's going to send Yeshua, his son, back, and he gives a name, okay? Yahushua, he gives the name Yahushua, Yeshua, meaning Yah saved, and see what he says about his son coming back, and with the hosts that are coming back with him from the Old Testament, as they call it, the Old Testament, in there when it actually says it. So you know, wherever you are in your life journey, if you haven't tried the Father, give him a try. Give him a try. So I'm gonna tune out now on the live stream, and we pray that you have a prosperous journey and that you come to realize whose you are, and then find out who you are. And so know who you are and know who you are, and then live that life. And we part with you in blessings this evening. Shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem.